Setting up my moving time lapse here in front of the waterfall. Morning everybody. Today I want to do something a little bit different, and it's both give you some of my workflow with time lapses, but also ask you guys to help me figure out how to do it a little bit differently. So I'm out here this morning taking a time lapse of this waterfall. In fact, I'm doing a moving time lapse. I have a few different techniques that I use. This is one of the ones that I found most reliable. I have a rhino slider with the Syrp, and the Syrp is actually the moving time lapse, and it's sliding along the string, and then the Syrp is actually going up and triggering the camera. What I do for this waterfall, I'm trying to find an area here in the low zone where I can get a little bit of the foreground movement, so I get the rocks in front. I set it up. I want to try to get the waterfall. One of the things I do in particular is I want to be particularly attentive to the shutter speed. About a half a second. That allows me to get some blur of the water. The other thing is, you got the sunrise over there. So what I really am concentrating on is not blowing out the highlights. So what that means is I have to have it almost 2 stops down on what the general exposure is, and that allows me to pull up the darks and take the lights in the sky, pull them down. Now what I'm curious about is, for those of you who do moving time lapse, how do you do it? On this one, I have no way of adjusting the exposure as the sun rises, other than going into the camera and just adjusting it down. So as I notice that the sky is starting to get too bright, I'll drop it maybe 2 stops. And then I'll put it all through LR time lapse and do the smoothing out. But sometimes what that does is it gives a little bit of a skip in the time lapse. And I know there's a few systems. I'm really keen on trying them out. I also know there's a lot of different ways to do moving time lapses. I'm actually testing a few different ones out right at the moment. There's a Harrope system that I'm trying out, which looks somewhat promising. What are the ones that you use? Do you use dynamic perception? Do you use some of the other brands? Leave your comments down below. I'm going to make a video on moving time lapses, but I wanted to ask this question to you guys so I could get a good response from the community before I did a full review on it. Alright, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday.